way through October, and it's that time of year where I get in the mood for some spooky season shows. However, if you know one thing about my taste in movies and TV shows, is that I don't like scary stuff at all. Like, it's one of the only genres I just will not watch. And honestly, I like Halloween, but I like it for the costumes. Monsters and skeletons and mummies and all of that stuff, it's not really my vibe, but I love dressing up. So I really enjoy Halloween for that reason, and I want to get in the spirit. But since I don't like horrors or thrillers, I feel like those are the things that are advertised during spooky season as get in the spirit for Halloween, watch these scary movies. So sometimes it's hard for me to find stuff that will give me in the Halloween spirit because all of the stuff that's being recommended is stuff I don't want to watch. But surprisingly, over the past year or two, I have found a few shows that are perfect. They just scratch that Halloween itch without being too scary. Some of these I discovered about a year ago during last spooky season, but I never posted about them, so I'm excited to share my recommendations. Now, all of these recommendations are shows that I discovered in the past year or two, so they're all pretty recent. Of course, one option to scratch that Halloween itch is to go back and watch old shows like Wizards of Waverly Place, My Babysitter's a Vampire, Danny Phantom, or like Halloween specials from sitcoms. But I wanted this list to be relatively current stuff, and also stuff that has like an adult or young adult, older teen target audience, rather than like Disney Channel stuff from 15 years ago. So here are my top 5 recommendations of what you should watch this spooky season, coming from someone who doesn't like scary things. Let's count up from number 5. Number 5 is Extraordinary. Extraordinary is a British superhero comedy series. Now, you may be thinking that a superhero themed show isn't very Halloween-y, and you may be right. That's why I put this at number 5 on the list. However, given that I like Halloween for the costumes, and a lot of people nowadays dress as superheroes for Halloween, I feel like it's on brand. The basic premise of the show is that everyone develops a superpower about when they turn 18. But the main character, Jen, is in her mid-20s and hasn't discovered what her superpower is yet.
Carrie, I haven't got a power yet. I'm not, like, terminal.
The fun of the show is that it explores how superpowers would be used in day-to-day life, like with work and dating, etc. And of course, the characters get up to shenanigans.
I'm in the middle of a redemption arc.
Plus, there's quite the range of superpowers. Like, imagine your friend has a cool superpower, like the ability to fly, and you're stuck with something stupid, like being able to summon fish. And the show is hilarious.
Maybe the real power is just being yourself.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
No.
When I discovered Extraordinary, I think back in April, which was about a month after season 2 came out, I binged the whole thing so fast. I watched the entire thing, 2 seasons, in 3 days. The sarcastic, irreverent humor had me laughing out loud. And I was literally right here in this chair watching the show and laughing so hard, worried I was disturbing my husband next door. Honestly, no show had me laughing so hard in a while. Extraordinary is available to watch on Hulu in the US and on Disney Plus internationally. There's 2 seasons so far. Both seasons consist of 8 episodes, and the episodes are about 30 minutes each. Season 1 was released in January of 2023, and season 2 was released in March of this year. At this point, it has been 7 months since season 2, and there's been no news about renewal for season 3 or cancellation, so there's a possibility that it's being quietly dropped. We'll see. And if it does end up getting either canceled or quietly dropped, that's really unfortunate because season 2 ended on a pretty significant cliffhanger and definitely didn't provide a satisfying conclusion to the show. So I would be very sad if we don't end up getting a season 3. But let's continue on to number 4 on my list, which is Ghosts. Either the US or UK version. I'm mainly talking about the US version of Ghosts because I've seen all of it. I've seen some of both versions, and I would recommend either or both of them, but since I couldn't find anywhere to watch later seasons of Ghosts UK without buying it in the US, I haven't seen all of it, so that's why I'm mainly talking about the US version. So Ghosts is an American sitcom on CBS. It is based on the British version, so the British version came first. The basic premise of the show is that ghosts exist, but they're unable to interact with the living world, except for in a few very small ways denoted by individual ghosts special powers, like being able to hum and the faint music can be heard by living people, or very, very, very slight ability to touch and move things. But as a general rule, ghosts can't just get up and show themselves and talk to humans. Except for when one of the main characters, Sam, has a near-death experience that leaves her with the ability to see and hear and interact with ghosts. So the series follows Sam and Jay, who are a relatively young married couple who inherit a house, a large house, that happens to be inhabited by several ghosts.
He's not wrong. This place looks haunted. I mean, it is haunted, but you don't want people to think that.
These ghosts come from various time periods throughout history. Specifically, the main ghosts include a Viking, a Lenape man from about 500 years prior, a captain from the Revolutionary War,
There's a Viking and a guy dressed like Hamilton.
How do you know about Hamilton?
a Victorian-era lady of the house, a 1920s singer, a hippie from the 60s, a scout leader from the 80s,
My doc was pretty worried about my blood pressure. Luckily, didn't turn out to be a problem.
and a finance bro from like the late 90s, turn of the century, 2000 era. There are also some other ghosts on the property who don't interact as often. It is a sitcom with some random characters coming and going and whatnot. So the fun of this show comes from the interactions among the different ghosts from different time periods, as well as how they attempt to utilize the ability to actually communicate with a living person now. In general, the humor feels pretty standard for an American network sitcom, but it's fun that it has that supernatural twist of having ghosts, and that's what makes it really good for a watch during spooky season. It is also fun to learn a little bit more about each of the ghosts' different backstories, like how they died, when they were from, what they were like when they were alive, as well as learning about their special powers, because some of them you don't know their special powers up front, or they don't even know what their special power is yet at the beginning of the show. So that adds a little bit more storytelling and direction. When I discovered Ghosts back in February, which was just before season 3 came out, I watched the first 2 seasons in less than 2 weeks, and then I was very happy to be able to watch the episodes of season 3 as they came out weekly, and was very sad that season 3 was shorter than the others because it ended so quickly. There were like only 10 episodes. But I am quite excited for season 4. In fact, the premiere of season 4 is this week. So Ghosts airs on CBS and it's available on Paramount Plus in the US. I tried looking up where these shows are also available internationally, at least in English-speaking countries. I saw that it's on BBC iPlayer for those in the UK. It looks like other countries might have it on Paramount Plus, but only the first season, so that's a little unfortunate. There are 3 seasons so far, which aired starting in fall of 2021. There is the next season, fall of 2022, and then season 3 was just in the spring of 2024, earlier this year, with season 4 releasing later this week on October 17th, 2024. Episodes premiere on Thursdays on CBS, and then they're made available on Paramount Plus later that day, or maybe within 24 hours. I think it maybe depends on level of subscription and whatnot. If you have access to watching it live, you can watch it live as it airs on CBS, but then after that you might have to wait till the next day to watch each episode. Like I said, the 3rd season is shorter than the others. The first 2 were 18 and 22 episodes respectively, and the 3rd one was 10. It's projected that season 4 will be back to being around 20 episodes, just because the reason the 3rd one was so much shorter was because of the actors and writers strikes in 2023. Episode runtimes are the standard network 30-minute slot, so about 22 minutes per episode. Also, no news yet on season 5, but we wouldn't be expecting that yet anyway, since season 4 hasn't started coming out. I would guess there will be an announcement about whether it will be renewed for season 5 around January, because announcements for renewal have historically been about halfway through airing the previous season. Anyway, I'm quite excited for season 4 this week. But let's keep moving forward on to recommendation number 3. Wednesday. And if you haven't heard of Wednesday, I don't know what rock you've been living under. It was quite popular right after it came out, but if somehow you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it as a must-watch, especially during spooky season. Wednesday is an American coming-of-age supernatural mystery television series. Based on the characters from the Addams Family, it follows Wednesday as she goes to a new school and uncovers a monstrous murder mystery. This show has everything in terms of spooky vibes without ever getting way too scary. Dark academia? Check. Magic and monsters? Check. Murder mystery? check. And Wednesday's deadpan comedy adds a certain lovable flair to her character that also makes the show quite funny.
Want to take a stab at being social? I do like stabbing.
And honestly, in general, anything related to the Addams Family gives off a very strong Halloween vibe. Now, since these last few recommendations, unlike numbers 4 and 5, are more serious shows, I am going to talk a little bit more about the scariness. 4 and 5 were comedies. Not scary at all. Contrary to what Google says, and despite the dark tone, I wouldn't consider Wednesday a horror. It has some suspenseful moments, sure, and maybe 1 or 2 jump scares and scary moments. But the focus is on the mystery, and it feels a lot more like a supernatural version of a magic school story than anything else. It just has gothic elements, a dark tone, and other Tim Burton stylizing. Now, I watched Wednesday pretty soon after it originally came out, which was nearly 2 years ago, and I stayed up way later than I should have because I just couldn't stop watching. The mystery built on itself so well that I just, at the end of each episode, I just wanted to keep watching. I'm pretty sure I watched the entire thing in like 1 or 2 days. So Wednesday is available to watch on Netflix, and season 1 aired in November of 2022 and consists of 8 approximately hour-length episodes. Season 2 is currently in production and slated to release in 2025, but there's not a specific date announced yet. So, continuing on with the recommendations, number 2 is School Spirits. School Spirits is an American supernatural teen drama television series. I don't know if you can tell, but I got some of these descriptions just for the first sentence of each from like Wikipedia. Sometimes Wikipedia just has a good way of saying things, but also sometimes it's a little bit of a mouthful. But anyway, School Spirits is quite the murder mystery. The basic premise is that the main character, Maddie, is a ghost, but she doesn't remember how she died, and no one has found her body. She just disappeared. Many living people wonder if she just ran away when she disappeared, but Maddie knows she's a ghost, so she knows she's dead. In the show, as a general rule, ghosts can't communicate with living people.
It's Maddie.
They can't hear you!
So you see Maddie trying to solve her own murder, but not really being able to do anything about it. At the same time, her living friends are trying to figure out what happened to her, and eventually, I guess this is a tiny spoiler, but not really, just for like the first episode. Eventually, there is a little bit of communication going on there. So you see these two groups of people, the ghosts and the living people, trying to solve this mystery and uncovering even more layers of a bigger mystery. Similar to Ghosts, there's some fun interaction with ghosts from different time periods. The high school happens to contain the ghost of everyone who died on campus, which is a shockingly large number of people.
High school used to feel like an eternity, and now it actually is.
But these ghosts date back about 60 or so years. So there's a football player from the 80s, there's a cynical girl from like the 60s about, and there's a friendly guy from the 90s who tries to kind of guide Maddie while she's transitioning to being a ghost. Like Wednesday, this show is more serious than the first couple of recommendations I mentioned, so I do want to address the scariness. I do remember there being a couple of parts where I had to pause the show and take a deep breath, but for the most part the show is about the drama and the mystery, and so the few suspenseful moments were something that I was okay with in small amounts. Now, I discovered School Spirits last year in September, so just over a year ago, and I kid you not, I watched the entire thing in one sitting. I didn't watch it right when it came out, even though I kind of wanted to. I saw ads for it when it was first coming out, but I didn't have Paramount Plus at that point. So about 6 months later, when I finally did get Paramount Plus, it was one of the first shows that I watched. Originally, I wanted to watch the show because of Peyton List and Milo Manheim, who were both in Disney Channel stuff when I was in like my late teens and early 20s. So going into it, I was just like, oh, this will be fun seeing them in something new. And honestly, I did not expect it to be so good, but it was, and I am so excited for season 2. School Spirits is currently available to watch on Paramount Plus and Netflix in the US. Sometime around maybe a year ago, Paramount Plus lent it out to Netflix so that they could stream season 1 and boost that viewership, which is great because I'm hoping more people will be able to watch the show. From what I can tell, I think it's only on Paramount Plus in other English-speaking countries. But anyway, if you're wanting to watch season 2 when it eventually comes out, I'm sure that'll only be airing on Paramount Plus at first. Season 1 aired in March of 2023 and consists of 8 approximately 45-minute long episodes. Season 2 is currently in production with an anticipated release date in 2025, but nothing has been announced yet in terms of even the year. I mean, we're pretty sure it's going to be released in 2025, but no date has been announced yet. Hi guys, Editing Caitlin here, and there's actually some news from since I filmed this video. A teaser trailer for School Spirit Season 2 came out on Friday, and it still doesn't announce a release date. It just says streaming soon. I don't know what soon means, so there is a possibility that it'll be out before the end of the year, but early 2025 is still the best bet. Continuing on, I do have 2 honorable mentions before continuing on to my number 1 recommended show for this spooky season. So honorable mention number 1 is What We Do in the Shadows. I've only recently started watching What We Do in the Shadows, and I've only made it partway through season 1, so that's why I didn't want to include it on the main list, but it has been very entertaining so far. What We Do in the Shadows follows 4 vampire roommates on Staten Island using a mockumentary style. Imagine like The Office, but the characters are traditional vampires. And the show is just so unserious that it makes it quite hilarious.
The problems with living with other vampires are the vampires I have chosen to stay with.
What We Do in the Shadows started airing on FX in 2019. There are currently 5 seasons, with a 6th and final season premiering on Monday, October 21st. It airs on FX, and it's also available to stream in the US on Hulu. And I couldn't find very much information about if it's available to stream anywhere internationally, so it might be hard to find without having to buy. Honorable mention number 2 is Agatha All Along. I am so obsessed. MCU projects recently have been so hit or miss, but this is perfect for this spooky season. So Agatha All Along is a current MCU project with perfect witchy Halloween vibes. The show follows Agatha Harkness after the events of WandaVision as she tries to regain her powers by walking the witch's road with a last-minute thrown-together coven.
I'm assembling a coven.
We gotta get back on top.
I'm gonna walk the road.
I didn't include this on the main list because so far only 5 out of 9 episodes have released. The series is only half over, and who knows, maybe the second half of the season will suck. But based on the first half, I don't think it will. I have really been enjoying the show so far. It is one of the more serious ones on this list, and it does have a couple of scary moments, like imagery and jump scares, but nothing too bad. The show primarily feels like an epic quest with all these like side quests along the witch's road, but like instead of an epic fantasy vibe, it's a witchy vibe, like they're all witches. And you know, there's some mystery thrown in as always. Agatha All Along is streaming on Disney+. It's intended to be just a 1-season mini-series, with each episode currently airing on Wednesdays until the 2-part series finale on October 30th. They very intentionally planned the release time for this show, and it's perfect. Honestly, with these honorable mentions, if I make a list like this next year, these 2 might be at the top of the list, but since I'm not caught up on What We Do in the Shadows, and since Agatha All Along isn't all the way out yet, I didn't want to include them on the main list. But speaking of the main list, honorable mentions aside, let's get to the number 1 spot. A drum roll, please. Number 1, Lockwood Co. Lockwood Co is a British supernatural detective thriller series. Now wait, I hear you ask. I thought you didn't like thrillers. And you're right. While this is technically a thriller series, it has different vibes that I like, and I probably wouldn't even describe it as a thriller. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, but first I want to cite that on the web I have seen a lot of other people saying that they also like Lockwood Co, even though they usually don't like scary stuff. And also I want to first give some context about the background and storyline in the show. The basic premise of Lockwood Co is that in England there has been an epidemic of ghost hauntings for the past 50-ish years. In this case, ghosts have the power to kill you with just their touch. So this epidemic, which has been labeled the problem, is pretty serious. Over the course of this alternate history, psychical detection agencies, which specialize in hunting ghosts, have formed and become a central part of society. The trick with hunting ghosts, though, is that only kids kids or teens have the ability to see, hear, or otherwise sense them. So basically everyone's lives are in the hands of a bunch of teens with some type of talent. The show follows Lucy Carlisle, a listener with outstanding talent for hearing ghosts, as she joins Lockwood Co, the smallest psychical detection agency in London. Lockwood Co has only 2 other members: Anthony Lockwood, the enigmatic leader with great talent for sight, and George Kareem, a researcher who is obsessed with studying the problem.
I'm Anthony Lockwood. This is George. Welcome to Lockwood Co.
These 3 go off and fight ghosts together, but also end up getting themselves involved in greater mysteries as they work through their cases.
Now we're gonna die.
Okay, so that's the background. The vibes. Obviously, there's spooky vibes because of the ghosts. That's a no-brainer, and that's why this is the perfect show for the top of this list. But is it scary? While it is technically classified as a thriller, it never got too scary for me. And when it comes to the vibes, part of the world building makes it feel more like a very interesting mix between contemporary fantasy and dystopian genres. What I mean by that is that the paranormal stuff feels a lot more fantastical than other ghost stories. Like, the way the ghosts are established to manifest, there's like specific rules to it, and the fact that the characters need talent to be able to sense them makes this feel a lot more like a magic system than something rooted in reality, like other scary ghost stories. And then also the 50 years of this alternate history gives it a vaguely dystopian vibe too, because now people are faced with this society where literal children are forced to go off and work in a very dangerous job in order to keep the country safe. Plus, there's also this extra fun little vibe to it because the problem has hindered any technological advancements for the past 50 years that aren't related to ghost hunting. So in some ways, there's this distinctly like mid-20th century feel as well. So all of that together just gives it this really, really interesting world building that I enjoy. Plus, still talking about the scariness of it all, the plot is much more focused on the mystery than like the scary aspects, and the ghost fighting scenes involve a lot more action. There is suspense, but it doesn't last very long, and then they're like physically fighting the ghosts, you know? So that breaks up the suspenseful stuff. Lockwood Co was the show I discovered during spooky season last year. It was October 4th, so just over a year ago. I put it on while I was eating dinner on a work night, and stayed up way later than I should have because I just couldn't stop. I didn't quite finish the show though because I had to go to bed and go to work the next day, but I did finish the show that weekend. But anyways, since I discovered the show just over a year ago, I have watched it more times than I can count and read the books. There's 5 books in the series. I read all of them. I am currently on my second read through the series on the second book again. And honestly, in the past year, especially the past couple months, it has become one of my biggest fandoms. It's great. Lockwood Co is available to watch on Netflix. Season 1 aired in January of 2023, and it consists of 8 episodes that are about 45 minutes apiece. Unfortunately, the show was canceled less than 4 months after airing. And honestly, I had heard of Lockwood & Co. fairly soon after it came out, but I was so busy with work that I wasn't looking for a new show. And it took me a while to get around to watching it, because then by the time I had more time for watching it over the summer, it had already been canceled, and I didn't want to get into a show that had already been canceled. But it was like the perfect thing for me to watch last October during spooky season, and I do not regret it. At first, I was upset at myself for watching a show and getting into a show that had been canceled, but I do not regret it anymore because there are books and there's community, and I have found so much fun in this fandom recently. So yeah, unfortunately the show was canceled less than 4 months after it first aired, and this is where I add a little disclaimer saying that there is a decent cliffhanger at the end, which makes the cancellation all the more upsetting. However, I wouldn't use that as an excuse to not recommend the show. Since there's books, there are answers out there to the cliffhangers, and I would still 100% recommend watching the show, especially this October. The show follows the plot lines of the first 2 books. So the first 3 episodes follow the storyline for the first book, and the remaining 5 episodes follow the plot line for the second book. So if you fall in love with the story like I did, then you can still finish up the storyline by reading books 3 through 5. Although you'd still want to go back and read the first 2 books because there are some differences. Also, the cliffhanger at the end of the show isn't super plot related. So, like, you'll still get a very satisfying ending to the overall storyline for the first season of the show. They just have to hook you on something at the end. And if you're not up for reading all the books, you can just Google the answer to the question that's posed at the very end. I did on accident. That's a whole nother story. But if you're interested in the overall mystery of the problem and like what caused it and everything, then that's when I would highly recommend just going and reading all the books. Plus, if you get attached to the show and love it so much, you can also join the Save Lockwood Co campaign. I recently joined the Save Lockwood Co Discord server a few months ago, and I was surprised how active the community is. It's a small fandom, but it's pretty active right now, and it's really fun to interact with other people who really enjoyed the show and the books. Plus, I do actually have decent hopes about Lockwood & Co. potentially being saved. Unlike with some of the other shows I've watched that have been canceled that I don't really have very much hope for, Shadow and Bone, I think there's more likelihood of Lockwood & Co. being saved because Netflix only owns the distribution rights and not the IP. And the production company is aware of the campaigning efforts that have been going on in the community and hasn't asked us to stop. So, I don't know if that gives you hope, but it gives me hope. And you know what? We may be clowning, but at least we're clowning together. And so we've made it to the end of my list. How long was this video? Oh my gosh. I've been recording literally for over an hour. Can you hear how sore my voice is at this point? Yeah. Hour and 7 minutes right now. Anyway, you made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. Also, I'm sorry I've not been consistent about posting again. I was doing so good in July and the beginning of August, and by so good I mean relatively good. Not perfect, but still decent. Posting close to weekly for the first time in like 2 years or something like that. What was that? I can't even remember. But then the semester started and I haven't posted for 2 months. I might have committed to more than I should have for this semester. I am taking 2 classes and working full-time. And they're like graduate level classes. They're not easy classes. So I think the next 2 months might still be a bit sporadic. I'm still gonna try to shoot for weekly posting on Mondays. Granted, I don't think I'm posting this on Monday. I'm filming this on Monday. It might be up on Tuesday. I don't think I'm gonna have time to finish editing this tonight. In fact, I do have a few videos in the works, some of which are Lockwood & Co. related, like I made a cosplay for FanX that I am also using for Halloween that I still need to finish, that I'm gonna be posting out about a bit, as well as many videos planned to talk about Lockwood & Co. So if you're here because you also love Lockwood & Co., please stick around for that. I'm hoping to be able to post a bunch of Lockwood & Co. videos in the next couple months. So I'm excited. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, which you can do by clicking over there. And also hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I post again, especially for those upcoming Lockwood & Co. videos. While you wait, you can check out some more of my videos. Up top, I am going to link a trailer reaction for Agatha all along, and underneath that is a playlist of Lockwood & Co. videos that will probably only have this single video at this point in time, but if you're watching this later on when I've posted those Lockwood & Co. videos, then you can check those out there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!